So hello and welcome back to the Champ.ie weekend recap. And I suppose this week it's the Blair White roundup because we don't have Colin Finlay. We've Andrew White Blair, who's back with Champ.ie once again. Andrew, you were at Fairyhouse today. Great to have you on again. How are you doing?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Barry. Great to be back on. It was fantastic days racing today down in Fairyhouse. I was glad I was down there, to be honest. To get that level of racing this early in a season is really class, to be honest. And there was a big crowd there, and I'm glad there was, because there were so many brilliant performances to take away from it.
Well, I suppose that brings me on to my first question. One horse, one performance. If you were to take away one moment, I suppose, from today, or one horse, what would that be? The floor is yours.
I'd actually probably select a horse that didn't win, being Samcro, falling 2 out in the Drinmore Novice Chase. There's a lot to be made before the race, I think, obviously with the weight concession to Fakir, who is a brilliant horse in his own right, and disposed of Mellon very well a couple of weeks ago. But Samcro travelled absolutely beautifully in the race, I thought. I see a few people commenting on his jumping, and having watched the race back, I just thought he was very economical. Obviously, in comparison, Fakir is quite a flamboyant jumper, but Samcro was just popping away. It was just a mistake, to be honest, out, and he just didn't find the landing gear, which is a shame, obviously, but because it robbed us of what would have been probably a very good finish. But I thought he was travelling all over the eventual winner. It's obviously, it's hard to tell 3 furlongs down at Fairyhouse. It's still a wild race, but he was showing an awful lot of zest, and I wouldn't be discouraged by his performance, to be honest. I still think he's probably a rock solid favourite of the JLT going forward.
Yeah, I think sometimes the most difficult thing in horse racing, Andrew, especially when it's what you're calling races, when you decide upon a horse, or think a horse, I suppose, is should be favoured or should win a particular race, and then to reverse and say, hold your hands up and say, especially when the horse wins, like Fakir, we put Fakir up early in the week when he was 9-4. But I think the difficult thing is to actually say, hold on, Samcro was coming to win the race. I think he would have won the race. To call a winner, but you have to say, no, hold on. I think the best horse here was Samcro, and I think he would have won. Exactly as you said, moving so sweet. Did you hear the commentary from Jerry Hannon? There was a couple of pieces now today that I enjoyed, but strap yourselves in coming to the second last.
It was absolutely tragic. Everyone was actually was there, and I think everyone clocked it when he said it, even live on the commentary. And then unfortunately, what happened. But the fact that already they were getting to 2 out, and they'd put distance on them, on an Irish Grand National winner, Ronald Pump, who's a very good horse in his own right. There's some decent enough animals in behind there, and the two of them were shooting clear.
Yeah, so it was just the way the race panned out. They went steady enough in the early stages. Fakir took it on down the back. He was a sight to behold at 1 or 2. And as Colin Finlay said during the week, he's not your typical sort of strapping chaser that you look forward to. He was pinging fences down the back. Samcro, as you said, economical, careful, I thought, at 1 or 2. We saw that in Down Royal as well. I didn't think he didn't strike me as an Arkle winner. The way he jumped up to 2.5, obviously in the Drinmore here, but the way he moved, the way he just moved with ease, like it was like. Saw another pundit actually, men against boys, coming to the second. I think he would have won the race, and Fakir didn't come home that quick, and I think maybe back to 2 miles for him. Ronald Pumpin must be mentioned as well, Andrew. Obviously, the eight grand supplement for the Laois and Limerick gang in here, but thought Robbie had the squeeze on down the back. Now I thought he might have been that might have been 4 out. I think he made that mistake. But staying on, I know a couple of Shrewdies now and lads who've connections in the Matthew Smith yard that have backed him for the RSA chase. So definitely not to give up on Ronald Pump, I think. He was staying on. If you look, turning in, he was obviously, after making that mistake, he was well beaten behind Burrow Saint. He stayed on better than anything. Obviously, there was Samcro came down, but he was closing at the line. I think going up in trip, maybe that Topaz in your home patch, Leopardstown at Christmas, the novice chase could be something to where he might go next. I think great company. I wouldn't give up on him just yet. That's, I suppose, the Drinmore. That was probably the most exciting race on the card, I think, coming to 2 out. But Honeysuckle, what a mare she is. What was your thoughts on her, and where would you like to see her going off the back of today now? Like, I mean, Benny the Jaw, I know you're a big fan, but to me now she has her measure, I think. I'd like to see her a champion hurdle potentially.
Potentially, yeah. Like I was quite keen to take on Honeysuckle today. I'd hold my hands up to that, and I kind of went away with a bit of egg on my face because I didn't think that her form up until this race had really amounted to that much. But she passed these away very nicely indeed. Apple's Jade and Bacardi's, like when you look at the two of them, they've just kind of confirmed form from Navan. Bacardi's beaten her again, 7-8 lengths. So there was no fluke to that. And then obviously the rest, Penn Hill kind of blew up turning in, having travelled quite nicely. But it was an excellent effort. I would like to see her against the geldings, but I don't think she's a ready-made champion hurdle horse. I do believe half is her trip.
Why is that?
So therefore, sorry?
Why would she not tick the champion hurdle boxes for you? Or
I just think people are quite jumpy in terms of they want horses because the champion hurdle division isn't very strong. But it happened the same with Apple's Jade. Like Apple's Jade at no stage really showed that she was a 2-miler in waiting. She always galloped very strongly. She's a strong stayer. Honeysuckle's a strong stayer because Rachel Blackmore kind of steadied her up going into the last, kind of made a bit of a meal of it, to be honest, but then went on again after the last. So she wasn't stopping in any way. The other thing is that I think she's going to have a much easier task getting £7 from some of these champion hurdle horses than getting no pounds from Benny the Jew. I think that will be a tougher race in a lot of respects than getting £7 off, Sharjah and Saldier and stuff like that. So I would be tempted to give her a crack, and maybe that means running her in the Ryanair hurdle over Christmas at Leopardstown, or maybe the Irish champion hurdle at the Dublin Racing Festival. And if it doesn't work out, then you can go back to the mayor's hurdle route. But at least you could kind of test the waters and see how good she is down at 2 miles. And if she was to win in a race like that, she becomes champion hurdle favourite very quickly.
Yeah, I do agree with what you said. I mean, she's won 6 now. She's unbeaten in 6 starts. The way she jumps, you'd nearly think that the Arkle next year might be something. Anyway, look, we'll stick to this season. I think the way she moves, I mean, she's a huge, huge engine.
Yeah.
Honeysuckle, the way she moved through the race today. Get what you're saying, Apple's Jade. It looks like she ran a better race today, and I think she was a little bit more buzzy in the pre-parades. I was down there and I saw even Ruby Walsh commented to say that she looked a little bit more alive today. It's hard to say. I mean, Bacardi's ran a solid race. Honeysuckle for me, though, the point you made, I'd like to see her back to 2 miles. Before you be getting excited, I suppose, I said I'd like to see her in a champion hurdle, but before you could think about backing her for something like that, you'd have to see her 2 miles, as you said, at Christmas, back against the geldings, getting that allowance to see how she felt. I think she'd be well up for it. And that's where I'm at with Honeysuckle. I think going in against Benny the Jew, I think she, based on what she's shown so far, she'd take a lot of beating. And
Yeah, my only the only thing I could put together that would in any way kind of correlate form was last year when she beat kind of Eglantine de Soy, and that was kind of the best mare she beat last year. And that's a horse that wouldn't even compare to Benny de Dieu in Mullins Yard. And I thought actually Benny de Dieu over in France when she beat the French mare de Boncourt. That was the last one. I thought that was just electric. Like that was her best almost ever performance. And I don't know. She's always a bit of a frustrating one because they seem to keep her, wrapped up in cotton wool for a large amount of the season. But if the clash was to come about, it would be absolutely brilliant. It makes that mare's race a stunning spectacle if the two of them were to rock up head against head.
Yeah, well, a lot of the chat on track anyway. And Ronan Groom, of course, must be mentioned on the season preview. Did put up Honeysuckle 40-1 for the Champion Hurdle. She's now, I think, as short as 10-1 in places for it. So very interested. I can't wait to see her at Leopardstown at Christmas. We'll move on to Envoi Allen. Is he the second coming, Andrew?
I don't know about that, but he is such a good horse. I do really like him. I just like the way he does it. He doesn't do anything overly flashy. It was of no surprise to me that he didn't win like visually that impressively today. But that being said, Abracadabra is a very good horse, and coming down to the last, you would have thought he was going to get.
Just you're setting it up nicely for me here. I just want to stop you there. Abracadabras, we put him up as a great each way bet. He drifted actually. He drifted last night to something like 6-1 this morning. Now he's the sort of horse today or bet today to get your betting account shut down. Midnight Run was in for support. He didn't run as big a race as I expected, but Abracadabras, just in terms of thrill today, that was what got we mentioned obviously Samcro and coming down to the second last, but when Jack Kennedy sat back up between 2 and 1 out on Abracadabras and Envoi Allen he's pushing, that was pretty exciting. I think Abracadabras on better ground as well. He made a hash of the third last and the last Abracadabras. Envoi Allen, I think a stronger pace at 2 miles would suit him, but I think Ballymore, no, would that be more up his street?
Yeah, it depends really. There's a lot of kind of differing views between Envoi Allen and Andy Dufresne. They're very similar types of horses. They're going to go out in front. They'll jump well and they'll keep going. And it's really, I suspect, where each one of them rocks up. One of them, hopefully injury free. One of them runs in the Supreme. One of them runs in the Ballymore. It's very hard to know at which stage who's going to go for which. I'd have thought
almost reminds me of when Willie had the conundrum between Faheen and Ventura and who goes where, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very, very much so. But I always remember around that time that Willie said that you'd always want the stronger stayer in the Supreme. And I just, for that reason, I wonder whether Envoi Allen, because from my eye, Andy Dufresne looks like he has a bit more speed. But it wouldn't surprise me if he runs in the longer distance race and Envoi Allen's in the Supreme, and they'll look to try and make all or certainly be up in the van all the way. And I suspect that the Cheltenham Hill, as we saw in the bumper last year, was of great assistance to him. He might have gotten pinned by Blue Sari on a flat track in the bumper last year, but the hill was of great assistance. And I could see him doing that again in the Supreme.
That's very interesting, just the points you made about, I suppose, Willie's comments about Ventura and Faheen back it must be 2016, I think. It's quite a while ago now. I love Ventura. I backed him that year Ante-Post. He was one of my favourite horses, Ventura. These two, they're two special horses. To me, Andy Dufresne in Navan, thought he jumped very, very quick. Envoi Allen was slick today, but Andy Dufresne, Jim, very, very quick, and I'd love to see him back at 2 months just to see what he can do. The option, I suppose, is and the stable. Elliot was very coy today when he was asked the question afterwards. Where would Envoi Allen? More so like the last day in Downright, he says we keep him at 2 for the moment. But when he was asked today, it was virtually no comment. But Envoi Allen, just on his performance, embittered, pestered him for the lead early on.
Yeah, no.
You know, and I think, you know, he showed maybe a small bit of versatility as well. And you say that, you know, I suppose a stayer in the Supreme. When I watched the race back, they didn't go a great gallop. It was actually, I think it was only a second faster than the handicap hurdle. So he's second on the card, same card over. And I mean, I think Mr. Blue Sky rated 144. He was the top weight in there. So I'm just thinking how quick. It was a slow pace early on, even though, and Embittered obviously pestered him for the lead. Took a lead off him, showed a small bit of versatility. Jumped very well in the hole. And I thought he showed, I suppose, a smart turn of foot. One I didn't think he actually had. I thought, you know, he was more of your stayer for the likes of the Ballymore. So he did impress me. But that being said, I would like to. I just want to see more before he's very, very short now for both races, and I want to see more like Henderson Willie. What are they going to bring out? You have Siskin, Fly Smart, all these horses, Lucky One, who we haven't even seen yet, and I just think people are getting very, very carried away. Very quickly with this Envoi Allen. I mean, he hasn't exactly done an unbelievable time. He's unbeaten in 6. Very slick, you know, what we've seen in Down Royal, and backs it up today. Abracadabra, I thought, you know, he kind of threw the race. He threw. Well, I'm going to say threw the race away, but any chance he had at the third last, and definitely at the last. I mean, if he wins the last, he's right there with a chance of winning, in my opinion. So, 2 good horses, but I want to see more from Envoi Allen before steaming in, I think, at those sort of prices. Just very quickly, to Cerberus, Andrew.
Yeah.
These are 2 horses you love, Cerberus and Wave of the Sea, going forward as juveniles. He was getting £4 this time around from Wave of the Sea. Thoughts, there was a lot of late support as well, and he jumped very well, I thought.
He did. The run of the race was probably to suit as well. I thought Robbie Parr gave him an excellent ride from the front. Again, another race, they didn't go mad quick, or certainly visually they didn't seem to be going any great clip. And he out jumped a Wave of the Sea, which was really, when you combine the jumping and the £4, that was probably your 3 lengths or whatever the winning margin was in the end. I wouldn't give up on either of them, to be honest. It wouldn't surprise me if Cerberus, the next time we see him, is running for a slightly more fashionable owner. I would say JP has his eyes on him, as he has done with a Wave of the Sea. Obviously bought him after his Down Royal run last time out. I think they're two lovely juveniles, though. I'd say they could well both run against each other again, and the Grade 2 at Leopardstown on Stephen's Day, and then potentially the Grade 1 over the Dublin Racing Festival, unless there kind of something else comes out of the sky. I see them being 2 kind of leading contenders. I remember in this race last year, Court Sublime just got touched off by Chief Justice. And you look at it, Court Sublime ended up second in the Triumph, and Chief Justice won a handicap hurdle at the Grand National meeting. So it does pay to watch this going forward, and I'd say these 2 are 2 very nice young horses.
Yeah, funny you say that. Colin Kidd trains a few horses down my neck of the woods, Bagnallstown. And I think Rashan won this a couple of years ago. I think JP was putting offers on the table as well. Rashan has gone on, maybe didn't go on to the heights that Colin Kidd might have expected at the time, but maybe the syndicate. I see what you're saying. You don't think he has enough horses, no, JP?
JP never has enough horses.
Yeah, listen.
Race where he doesn't have a horse, seemingly.
Yeah. Anyway, listen, that was Fairy House today. Was there anything else on the card? The bumper. We must mention the bumper winner. The name escapes me. Eric Blood Axe. He I tell you, I was down at the pre-parade ring before I went out. Gorgeous big horse, lovely looker. By I think who's what is it? Santa Sans, Fusel Raffles, of course. French bred, one of the leading French sires. Lovely striding horse, in against the rail the whole way around. When I look back at it, Fernie Hallis was very, very keen early on. He was a big disappointment because he came in with a tall reputation.
Yeah, I suppose he was, but the two of them pulled nicely clear in the end. Fernie Hollow's a point-to-point winner, and he was staying on probably the best at the end. The last kind of furlong, the penny was kind of beginning to drop with him, so I wouldn't be giving up on him. He probably does need further in time, and as you say, he was quite keen in the early stages. But I was very, very taken by the winner. Obviously, this race last year was won by Envoi Allen himself. So it is a bumper.
Yeah, exactly. Just on that point, because you're going to mention the bumper. Some of the past winners: Alfaroff, Outlander, Get a Bird. Envoi Allen, of course, last year. It's a hot bumper, and I think the winner is a nice horse. Mightn't have the speed for 2 miles when he does jump a hurdle. He looks more of a stayer to me. Yeah. Big striding horse. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just the way they put distance between those two and the third. I think the third was not a bad regarded horse of Gordon's either. So it certainly looked visually like a bumper that will produce plenty of winners in the future.
But of course, I'm all for these Bagenstown bumper horses, Andrew. But we all know the bumper winner, the champion bumper winner. He's put up last week on the podcast. You want to tell everyone who it is? You weren't listening.
No.
Soaring Glory. John Joe O'Neill won the bumper at Ascot last week. He's gone 16 to 1.
I remember you saying that. You were banging on about some John Joe horse that won a good race at Warwick.
That's right. He won a good race at Warwick, and yeah, just I can't wait till we see him again. He pulled very, very hard at Ascot last week, and to come away from Kid Commando in the way he did, and lots of good chat about him as well. So can't wait to see him next time up. And then he'll be 3-1 favourite for the bumper after that. So loads of good horses to come out over Christmas. I'm only messing. Anything else, I suppose, a Fairy House today for you?
I'm not sure. I was on Killer Miller in the Porterstown.
Well, move swift along, so. Yeah. Killer Miller, who wants to talk about him? Okay, so Fairy House yesterday. Well, let's go on to the Rasher Counter at Newbury. What a race! What a race it was. Ben Jones, who's taken £5 off, gave us such a confident ride. What did you make it? What did you make it a ride? Rolling like the best horse in the race. And for the Champ.ie podcasts during the week, I'm not sure if you were listening to that one, Andrew. We're going to have you on soon again. 1, 2, and 3. We tipped up on the hashtag 8 points to play on Saturday with some race, and the Rasher Counter, a horse maybe with a big future. He's only 7.
Yeah, no, I thought it was an excellent performance. I thought I've been very impressed, as you were saying, with this Ben Jones. I've seen him recently. Obviously, he's had a few lucrative days in the past couple of weeks at Hereford, banging in trebles and doubles and the likes, and he gave this horse a cracking ride. I thought I was very taken by the run of the Conditional, obviously an ex-Irish trained horse, who I was a bit annoyed I didn't put up in the end. I fell for the Willie Mullins Cabaret Queen trap, and that didn't go as well as I hoped. But it looked an excellent race. Elegant Escape, who was running on, is a very good yardstick for those sort of handicaps. He's probably got another cracking chance in the Welsh National or something like that, and maybe the National in April time. He's a stout stayer, a pretty sound jumper. So that goes to, I suppose, solidify the form in a lot of respects, and I think the winner could be a very good horse. As I say, 7 years old, going to world beat now.
Such a strong traveller as well. A couple of people maybe doubted that he would get the trip, even though he obviously won over 3 miles. But, he's such a strong traveller in his race. But it'd be interesting to see where they go with him next. Newbury yesterday, reserve tank was turned over. What did you make of that one?
Yeah, well, I remember when I was on the podcast before, he was about to run in Wincanton. Yeah. And I kind of up that I was a bit windy about him, and I still am. And it wasn't of kind of a surprise to me, to be honest, that he got turned over. He just doesn't look as good as people, I think, want him to be. And I don't know why that is. I suppose I think a lot of it is ground dependent with him. I was actually surprised.
Apparently, I mean, Robbie Power did come out there and say a break now. Come back in the spring. He was a much better horse last year in the spring. But for me now, is jumping. Obviously, we saw him at 2.5 miles. I thought his jumping was sticky. He's very careful at his fences. Like, he obviously a 3 miler, you don't want them absolutely, like, you're lost in translation. We mentioned that he's very exuberant over his fences, and people are wondering now, is that going to stand him in good stead for something like a Gold Cup? I'm all about him. But reserve tank, just back to him, I just don't think he loves his fences from what I've seen so far. And look, he may well be a better horse in the spring. The horse of Nichols as they come out. What is it? Danny Whizbank, is it? Or
Danny Whizbang, yeah.
For the 4 miler, looks to me now. I'm not sure if you'd have the class for something like an RSA, but definitely want to keep an eye on, I think, going forward for something like a 4 mile chase at Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah, he was very good, the winner. As you say, I'd just be a little bit on edge about reserve tank. He kind of reminds me of when Finian's Oscar went over fences initially, and it just didn't seem to quite click for one reason or another. And maybe good ground will help him. He's the type of horse I certainly wouldn't rule out of winning a big race at Aintree, maybe. But he wouldn't be on my Cheltenham radar at this stage.
We might as well stick to Newbury and just go back to the Friday. Friday's racing was cracking racing. The Champ, the trim. Barry Geraghty's a lucky man. He didn't end up on the floor there on Champ coming down the home straight. He was one I took on with Dan the Carjack, Alan King, a 16-1 shot, and he was 9-2 as well without the favourite. Obviously, it was a hot race, which are back Black Op and Vision to Flow, who went back over fences, who slightly disappointed me, actually. He was very keen through the race. But Champ, still not convinced. He's very, very short again for the RSA chase. Look, he's a huge engine, but his jumping, I think I spoke to you earlier on, actually. We spoke just at the races, and you were saying about Champ how you're not fully convinced about his jumping either. And you might elaborate on that, Andrew.
Yeah, well, he just, again, he seems to make very careful efforts at times, and his jumping didn't seem to have progressed from his first run at all. If anything, it had gone backwards. Yeah. I thought it was a sloppier round of jumping. It was a good performance to win in the end, but I think it was, coming down to the last, the last was one of the few fences he did win, to be fair, and Black Op made a bit of a meal of it, and Black Op kind of landed at the back of it with no momentum, and Champ with all the momentum. So it wasn't a race. I see just a lot of people are very, very keen on this horse for Cheltenham, and I'd be holding fire myself. At this stage,
I fully agree with you. I'd be taking him on as well, definitely, at this stage. Be interesting to see where he goes next, because when he was entered in the 2 races, I thought he was going to go for the John Frankham on the Saturday. I was fully sure that the 2 mile 7, especially given Henderson's comments last year, that 3 miles, and I just thought, especially the way he jumped on debut, that going that little bit faster over 2 miles 3, might be a bit putting his jumper under pressure, and they might go for the longer race. But we'll see how that one develops. Stay on the Carjack, though. He will be winning over friends. It's beautiful. Mightn't be up to the same level as the likes of Champ, but maybe something like the Close Brothers. I think 2.5 miles is his optimum. I don't think he's going to want much further than that. And he was travelling like the winner coming down between the second last and the last, and really thought it was on one there. Definitely.
Travel superbly. I wouldn't be throwing any stones at him winning maybe a big kind of novice handicap at some stage.
We must mention Paisley Park. Can't wait till he goes over a fence if he ever does. Why would he need to at the moment? But he looks like a pure chaser to me, and he always did.
Yeah, it's a hard one to know. Like, obviously, you've got at the moment, if he stays sound, you feel he's got a second stairs hurdle really kind of ready and waiting for him to go.
What happens? Sorry, Andrew. What happens when if the cap fits beats him at Christmas? What happens then? Because that's your stairs hurdle.
It's not going to happen. I do like if the cap fits, but I don't. I just can't see him beating Paisley Park. To be honest, I think he's got the English horses sewn up. It was as sweetly as he's travelled almost in any of his races. To be honest, he didn't hit that spot. Now I don't know whether that's because they weren't going much of a gallop or not, but he travelled nicely enough, and kind of Thistlecrack put in a pretty good effort, and he kind of did the job as you'd expect him to do at the price he was. But it was a very nice performance. I thought that if he was going to get beat, this year it might be first time out. But it was an assured performance, and I'd say you'd be very happy if you're in Paisley Park's camp.
100% Thistlecrack. What an effort. And what a stayer. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what they do with Thistlecrack now, whether they have another go at him. Because going over fences, that seems just like a pointless exercise at this stage, especially given the depth in that division. I would definitely like to see him stay over hurdles. And he came on for every run last year, Thistlecrack, don't forget, as well. So,
yeah,
finish with it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. They seem to be quite insistent that the King George is still the plan.
It's silly.
I don't know. It's just such. If it was any normal year's King George, you'd kind of see the reasoning. But it could be such a good race and with such depth that I just think when you see the lack of depth, like you've named it there, you've got Paisley Park, and if the cap fits. And can you name another horse that's going to get anywhere near winning a graded race over 3 miles? The World's End is probably the next best if you take Thistlecrack out of it. But like the World's End isn't going to win a stairs hurdle. You wouldn't think. So like there's a market there for him. But I would be concerned that they'll just go down the King George route.
Absolutely. I think that's the way they're leaning, definitely with him. And anything else on Saturday or Friday that caught your eye?
Well, I thought after you said with Danny Whizbang being potentially the National Hunt Chase winner, I thought I found the National Hunt Chase winner at Fairyhouse being carefully selected. I think that horse, it just needs further and further and further. Again, as we've said with plenty of others, he's not the most exuberant of jumpers. He was a bit careful. He made a bad mistake at 2 out, but he came back up sides pretty quickly and kind of stayed on very well. His last furlong was probably his most impressive. I've seen a lot of words that Patrick Mullins, I think, is getting a bit jumpy that he might be on him for the National Hunt Chase, and I'm sure didn't he tinker the placings with Ballyward last year, I think, to get a good ride. So he might be doing similar to try and get carefully selected in this race, because he's got a good class angle, and I do think this could stay all day, to be honest.
I think he'd be probably passing by Faheen's box every day at home and maybe looking at him and saying, if you fancy one last trip over to the Cotswolds, maybe it might be on you. I'd heard a couple of people mention Faheen. We can't wait to see him again. I'm sure you'll be down at Foxrock Church. Just one, Andrew, at Fairyhouse as well for me. Party Playboy won the novice. He's rated 113. Finished second for Tony. As Roland Groom put it after the Cesar, which Tony Mullins was, imagine getting chinned coming up there. Tony Mullins 50 to 1 getting chinned by the brother for the Cesarewitch. That's Party Playboy. Went over hurdles, obviously. As I said, rate 113. You know, his jumping want to be a little bit better, but over 2.5, like obviously he's form on softer ground as well. And I just thought maybe something. He could be one that might see him once more before Cheltenham, and the handicapper's going to have a say now on this, even though it's only a novice race. He's going to go up, but maybe something in the low 130s. Could we see him in something like a Pertemps, Andrew, over 3 miles? And I think that would suit him down to the ground. He's one definitely that's gone into my tracker after the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw from Tony Mullins himself saying that they were planning, I think, to go over to one of the English tracks to run him in a Pertemps qualifier next time out.
Okay.
Obviously, if he does need to qualify to get into the Pertemps, and he probably needs to be going close to go up the weights enough to get in. But he seems that there's room for manoeuvre off his mark over hurdles. Certainly, if his flat form is anything to budge on, there's still plenty. He's probably got 5 or 10 more pounds in the locker, I'd say, somewhere.
Bit of an engine now, I thought. The way he just travelled through the race. He's obviously not going to. He's on a 2-miler, but steer on the flat, steer over hurdles, Andrew. A phrase that I took when Nicholas Canyon.
Yeah.
Back all those years ago. It's not that long ago. What's the name of the horse of Venetia's that won at Newbury?
The 4-year-old.
Fagnon Destreval. Very, very enthusiastic owner he has. I heard an interview after the race in Venetia as well. Interested in him. Well, obviously want to see him again before you start talking about Arkles, but I thought he looked a horse with serious ability now.
Well, to be honest, if I'd got a French horse over in training and it came in off his first run off a mark of 138 or whatever he was running off, and he won by 10 lengths on the snap, I'd be happy enough as an owner as well. It was a superb performance.
Well, Andrew, just to stop you there, there's a share left in this Champ.ie horse that Thomas Kyle. I was actually up after farriers today over with Thomas. I have 20% of it myself. Better not tell that to the taxman. We have a share in the horse. If you are interested in horse racing ownership, Andrew, I'd like to offer you that on the Blair White Roundup.
Okay. I think I'd need Duvan to go in first before I can get the old cash for that. I am seriously looking to get into ownership at some stage. Just even the idea of it, like when you're so close to the game, you're watching it so much of the time as it is. To have that kind of vested interest will be great. So I might take you up on that.
Another syndicate, actually, just want to mention, I know a guy involved, Darver Star ran a big race for a syndicate today in novice hurdle. Horse, obviously, who had ran in handicap. I thought he ran a nice race. I must look back at it again, but I've still on for third in that, behind Envoi Allen. So, syndicates, of course, bad press lately, but we have the Ronald Pumps and the Darver Stars. It's something that I suppose we may see a little bit more of with the likes of Jigginstown now moving out of the game. And it'd be nice to see some success stories in anything else. Okay, if you'd have one Ante-Post bet this week after what you've seen this weekend, Andrew Blair White, what would it and why?
This is going to come very, very left field. Because if you look at the bare form, you think I'm losing the plot here. But it would be Penn Hill for the Stayers Hurdle at 16 to 1. I thought he ran a cracking race for around 2 miles behind Honeysuckle, travelled into it beautifully. He was off for 580 days. He drifted like a barge. He was around 6 to 1 this morning, went off, I think, 14 to 1 or something. So it was obviously pretty clear that he'll need the run. I thought he shaped with quite a lot of promise. And as we've previously discussed, the Stayers Hurdle wouldn't be the strongest punch behind Paisley Park. I think 16 to 1's a big price each way.
Interesting. I have to confess, I have had a slice of Venetia's horse for the Arkle at 20 to 1. I think it was 16 to 1 now. in an open year, I've taken Lorena as well and Getaway Trump as well. They're, I suppose, my three at this stage. And I haven't seen anything else to catch my eye this weekend. I thought he was quite smart. Honeysuckle, as I said, very interested to see her against the Geldings dropping back in trip at Leopardstown. To see whether, I suppose, she's champion hurdle material. My suspicion is that she's well up to it. I think I'd have her all day long for the Mayor's Hurdle at this stage over your mate Benny. But just want to see her back at 2 miles before you be taught. And I think what Ronan Groom, as I said to you, put it up a start. I think this horse it's seriously on the table now for them. This isn't set in stone that they're going to the Mayor's Hurdle, because, as I said, she's going to get her chance now back at 2 miles at Christmas. It looks likely now. And if she wins that, it's more or less, it's kind of like Annie Power then, is it? We have to go, isn't it? That's the and Apple's JB seen it the same. So
yeah, I think you'd be silly not to go again, especially given, as we've discussed, the strength isn't brilliant in the Champion Hurdle. You know, obviously Bouvardaire's kind of performance and potential injury that's come out of that has kind of ruled him out of the season. You know, Classical Dream, Saldier, Sharjah, they're all kind of, you feel they are beatable, especially if they had to give a quality mare £7. So I'd say the next step is to go back to 2 miles, and I could see her winning a Ryanair hurdle, and then it would be all steam ahead for the champion.
Brilliant stuff. Andrew, fantastic to have you back on again for the Champ.ie. And listen, it's the Blair White Roundup. It's the first Blair White Roundup we've had this season. We also have the Finley's Roundup. So we'll be mixing it between the two of you guys. And all systems go towards Cheltenham. And when will I see you racing again, Andrew?
Maybe next Sunday. John Durkandale will probably get down to Punchestown.
John Durkin, well, I'm not sure if I'll be there myself. I have to go to Belfast with the missus. Christmas markets duties, you know. Anyway, listen, I suppose that concludes this week's recap. Andrew, brilliant to have you on, and we'll be in touch. And just on the 8 points to play as well, it's still early days. You've had a little bit of bad luck in recent weeks, but it's a fantastic competition, and we're going to start getting more people involved.
I know I could really do with a couple of winners, to be honest.
You're like Penn Hill. You're like Penn Hill now. You're gonna peak in the spring.
Oh, hopefully so. No, when Topville Ben got chinned at Newcastle, I thought this really wasn't my day. But it's not a sprint; it's a marathon we're playing here. So hopefully I can pick the lads up in the next few weeks.
Absolutely. Well, I spoke to Ronan Groom today. He's not giving up hope either. He had a bad weekend himself. But Colin Finley, Alan Doyle, top of the leaderboard after this weekend. And myself with the Rasher Counter, stepping up to the plate as well. So just, I suppose I'm above par, but we'll move forward next weekend. Great weekend's racing, Andrew, and fantastic to have you on again.
Thanks very much, Barry.
See you soon.
See you soon.